All right. So I'm in DeepSeek, which is China's brand new AI ChatGPT competition that is free and open source as OpenAI had initially intended. And it is apparently way faster and more up to date, whereas OpenAI has a lag of about 2.5 years or so between now and their current data model. So I asked it, what should America be most afraid of in 2025? And it took less than a minute to generate this output. And what I find interesting that it breaks down how it thinks about the question and how it's going to approach the question. It does that openly and then gives it an answer. So it says, I need to figure out what America should be most afraid of in 2025. Let's start by breaking down the question. The user is asking about the biggest threat or fears that the US might face in the near future, specifically 2025. First, I should consider current events and trends that could escalate by then. Let me brainstorm possible categories: political issues, economic problems, technological threats, environmental concerns, social division, and maybe international conflict. It goes on to say political polarization is a big one. The US has been really divided lately. And if this gets worse, maybe there could be more government instability, maybe even another event like the January 6th Capitol riot that could undermine democracy and lead to authoritarianism. Also, election integrity might be a concern in 2024, which could spill over into 2025, depending on the outcomes of public reactions. It emphasizes economic factors, inflation, debt, recession. The US has a huge national debt. If there's a recession, that could lead to unemployment, social unrest. Also, global economic shifts like China's rise, trade wars, maybe the dollar status as the world reserve currency weakening, they could have huge implications. So then it goes on to talk about technological risks with cyber attacks on critical infrastructure, social issues, racial tension, another pandemic. And then it goes on to say international threats. And it talks about the country it's from, China's growing influence, tensions over Taiwan or South China Sea, Russia's actions in the Ukraine, potential NATO conflicts, North Korea's nuclear program, Iran's nuclear ambitions, terrorism, both domestic and international. And then it talks about BRICS, right? Environmental concerns beyond climate change, resource scarcity, like the Colorado River incidences or issues. And then it breaks down other risks, maybe a breakdown in global supply chain leading to shortages, political violence, domestic terrorism, etc. And then it says, wait, like it has a thought. I should also think about how these factors might interact. So then it says, prioritizing what is the biggest threat, and it comes up with a list. And I'm going to show you guys this list. But I'm moving slow in case people want to actually read the whole thing. But what deepfake says it thinks the top threats are political instability, constitutional crisis, cyber attacks, critical infrastructure failure, another pandemic, escalation of international conflicts, and climate change-induced disasters. And then it says, but which is most critical? Political instability undermines the ability to respond. Let me read that again. Political instability undermines the ability to respond to any other crisis. So if the government is dysfunctional, then addressing anything else becomes harder. So maybe that's the biggest fear. And it goes on, and then it gives us our actual answer here. And it says our number one thing we should be afraid of is democratic erosion and political instability. The 2024 election aftermath could trigger disputes over legitimacy, leading to constitutional crisis, government dysfunction, or even political violence. Polarization and distrust in institutions may undermine governance. The impact is a fractured democracy, which would hinder responses to other crises, as it has. The second thing we should be afraid of: cybersecurity and critical infrastructure attacks. State or non-state actors, including Russia, China, hacktivists, could target power grids, financial systems, our elections, causing chaos that would lead to an immediate disruption of daily life, economic paralysis, and loss of public trust. Number 3, climate change or extreme weather. We're having it already. Florida, North Carolina, California, where I am, the fires. This has a long-term economic cost, and then there's migration crisis and global insecurity and instability. If people can't return to where they're from because they're afraid that they might repeat, where do they go? And then for international conflict escalation, simultaneous tensions with China over Taiwan, Russia, and NATO, North Korea. It's going to stretch the military and diplomatic resources extremely thin. This isn't even bringing up the conflict in the Middle East. And so, that being said, we can add that to that. Economic fragility, debt crises, inflation, recession could exacerbate already existing inequality and social unrest. It's happening already. Okay. And the oligarchs that run this are not thinking about this aspect because they're only concerned about the stock market. But people want to eat food every day. That's a thing. And they want to have shelter and they want to know that they can rely on that, especially if they work every day. And then it has number 6, public health crisis. New pandemics, natural or engineered, or bioterrorism could overwhelm the healthcare system. And with the shutdown of the CDC and FDA and different groups being able to tabulate data and inform and communicate with the populace, that's going to make this uh, even scarier because then nobody will know what's happening as it's happening until it happens to you. And so then it gives reasons. It says that the thing that we need to be most concerned about, and this is a Chinese engineered app available for open source use. Anyone can go download it off of the Play Store or the Apple Store. And it's basically saying, and if you don't agree with this, that means you're not paying attention. This has nothing to do with this app being made in China or anywhere else. It could come from anywhere else. Just if you are an American functionally literate and alert and reading and quote, quote, woke, you will understand this is our number one thing that we need to be most afraid of is democratic erosion. The constitutional crisis, we are bereft with an unfathomable amount of onslaught, of attack on our Constitution. A constitutional crisis or institutional collapse would immobilize us, paralyze our decision making. It would exacerbate any and all other threats that we experience. And we are in the midst of that. Political instability fuels extremism. It distracts from urgent issues. Our state is on fire. Parts of Florida and North Carolina are irreparable. And the ability to react to those things or help people are stifled with political instability, and it erodes the existing alliances. Without a functional governance, solutions to even existential challenges become completely unattainable. And so while multiple threats loom, the foundational risk is the unraveling of democratic norms and processes. We need to protect our democracy. It is essential to addressing all of the other issues that we may have. And so while this is coming out of a Chinese app, I need you guys to understand that an AI is only as good as its input, and the inputs are real.